Did I lose contact with the internet? Or did the internet lose contact with me? Hello, this is Benjamin Boyce, and I have a habit of speaking my mind on the internet in such a way that people who know more than me want to help me out. I think that I evoke this anxiety in people when they see me tread so close to brilliance and yet tumble consistently into foolery, and they want to help me back up again. Anyways, the conversation of which I now more know about, the conversation I now know more than I used to about is about the logistics industry and how it is radically changing in this very moment due to the COVID-19 shutdowns, at least with regards to America, but actually all around the world. There's this incredibly complex system that is shuffling goods from like freaking keyboards to my porch and to yours as well. And one of the companies that is actually benefiting or stepping up to the plate, depending on how you look at it, is Amazon.com. Amazon.com actually has a lot of power right now because it is fulfilling. It is actually going through and doing what we are telling it to do. And because it's going through a state of adaptation, the input that we put into it is going to shape it more than normal, especially if we act in concert. And insofar as we have more power than normal, it behooves us to know what we have power over. And so I was visited in my inbox, and now you're visited through my podcast by Hannah, the logistics lady who works in that industry, and she fills us in on how Amazon is behaving and might behave and could behave, and how our behavior shapes the ways in which the market will respond to us. And we just kind of wander through that entire field of behavior and questions, and I guess some answers here and there. Without further ado, here is Hannah, the logistics lady. Where can we go? What can we learn from you? Because I did an episode on my channel where I criticized. Well, I kind of mocked the Seattle pub. Did you see that? Right.
As I said, this is a crisis of coronavirus and capitalism, and we can see, as you correctly said, these corporations, even in the middle of this massive crisis, they are putting their own profits over the lives of people. So we can't really reform these corporations. We can't reform capitalism. We immediately need to raise the question of taking corporations like Amazon into democratic public ownership in the hands of their own workers and the community members who can run the corporations for the good of society, not for the profits of a few at the top.
And I said something along the lines of Jeff Bezos, even if he is evil, we have to respect the work that he's put in because of the value of building something is in and of itself a fundamental value. I don't think you can just take that away from somebody because you're fighting for the people. That doesn't make sense. But
no, right.
All that being said, there are still some problematic things that are going on with these huge companies that we need to be aware of that shape how things can happen for the good or for the worse of our society and our world and our country and so on, our paychecks.
Right. I think that's what I wish everyone could know more about, and which I can talk about, is how our individual choices affect our economy on such a huge scale. And not just really our economy, it's also what types of products are available, how we get those products, how do we get stuff, how do we get things, how do things get to our house. I'm a very curious person, so I want to know all of this naturally, but I'm intrigued by the fact that there are people who will scrutinize labels at the grocery store. Is this organic? What country does this come from? And so on. But they have no idea about any of the stuff that they're ordering. How did it get to their house? And, there's a lot that Amazon is not just a retailer. They are a competitor to UPS and FedEx. They're building their own infrastructure for delivery services.
Yeah.
So they want to do start to finish everything.
Yeah.
So the question is, do we all want to have that be our employer and where we get all of our services and our products from. And I would personally say no to that.
Okay.
And want people to be aware that the choices they're making now are kind of leading us in that direction, and recognize that it's not not innocent, but a neutral act to have everything on your doorstep the next day from Amazon.
It's really difficult for a human being to actually do the math to see how their individual actions work up to collective reality. It's really difficult to scale. And like we see in a threatening but not as threatening form with regards to Twitter and Google becoming these private companies that are de facto the marketplace of ideas. If this private company called Amazon, which I was reading at least the title, I don't know how realistic it was, but there was this Bloomberg article, I believe, that said that Amazon doesn't want to just compete in the market, it wants to be the market. So, and we're individually enabling that to happen. But it's hard for us to really do the math. And then
I can give examples of what that looks like on the inside, how they're having an impact that's actually very similar to Walmart in terms of what they're doing to smaller retailers.
Okay.
And in a, at least as pernicious way that people just aren't aware of. So,
like, should we go into that? Like,
So there are a few different ways that Amazon gets stuff. So most retailers feel some pressure to work with and through Amazon. People no longer think to go to websites of individual companies. If you're looking for gardening soil, you might not even bother going to your local garden shop. You might not look at their website. You might just think, okay, I want it delivered to my house. I'll go to Amazon. It'll be here. If you subscribe to Prime, it'll be here instantly. They don't even price check, which is very interesting because a lot of times it's not cheaper. Here's a thing that people, maybe they know subconsciously, but it's not necessarily cheaper. They're paying for speed and service. But a lot of those things you buy through Amazon are fulfilled through other merchants that have been forced to, your local Gardens R Us now has to list through Amazon to have any sort of meaningful online presence.
Yeah.
Amazon has all of the data it needs to figure out what they need to do to be Gardens R Us.
Yeah.
They know that if you buy a bag of soil, you're probably going to buy plant food. You're probably going to buy trowels. You're probably going to buy seeds. Eventually, they go to the manufacturers and distributors of those products, and they replace Gardens R Us entirely. They're able to push them out, even though they were a partner of Gardens R Us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on retailers to play the Amazon game, but it's undermining themselves long term, which is really limiting our choices. So one of the things that you don't necessarily use all the time, but when you go to Gardens R Us, there's a person who knows about gardening, right? I don't know anything about gardening, but if you go to your local retailer that's a specialty retailer in whatever they specialize in, they're going to know about the stuff they're selling. That's a big difference with Amazon. You'll never have an expert at Amazon telling you what type. Yes.
Well, I just want to push back on that because there are reviews there, and then those experts are now on, let's say, YouTube now. Like the whole thing has been imported online. That individual garden fanatic is now making maybe even a comparable amount of money to what they were making when they were actually working retail, producing the videos about all that expertise, so people can find that person, right? So I'm seeing. I just want to push back a little bit. Like the whole thing is being uploaded online. And the changes aren't all necessarily negative, but there is I still want you to continue with the story of how Amazon is.
No, and I'll push back on you.
Okay, yeah.
Because so the garden shop, in order to have a garden shop, needs to know what products to sell. And at some point, a company like Amazon would eventually need to have their own gardeners, people who have their degrees in agriculture, who have education and experience in these areas, or else they're going to lose a sense of what they need to know about gardening in order to continue providing everything that one would need for gardening. So eventually we're going to, I think, move back to that original system where the the retailer of the things we need needs to have some specialized knowledge and experience in order to continue knowing what to sell and how to guide people towards that. So, it would be all like freelance at that point, I guess.
Well, I mean, isn't retail just the same thing? I mean, if Amazon just becomes the market, let's say, and the expertise that drives what it is to make a successful garden is maybe not working for Amazon anymore, but works over, let's say, on YouTube, and then gets a little bit of money by follow the links for all these supplies through Amazon. So they're getting a little bit of kickback there, then they're getting a little bit of revenue here, and then if they're sufficiently talented, they'll get some subscribers and do some little projects like that. So it's all just the market itself. It just in the broad sense will find and promote the successful experts. They don't have to go to a store to do that. They can just do that from home.
So how do we ensure that, let's just look at this from the perspective of people who would consider becoming gardening experts. Yeah. How do we encourage people to go to college and get their degree in agriculture and do internships in companies where they are on farms or whatever type of specialty they would need, with this sort of vague future of employment and income? So, we're not going to promise you that there's going to be a job for you. You might be able to, if you have enough charisma and technical, comfort with technology and your marketing skills and all of these things that is now put on the individual, when I don't necessarily know that that's even the most efficient market force. If everyone has to do all of these things on their own, the most efficient way would be for the gardening store.
Well, you're just describing a small business. Like, you just described entrepreneur. Like, just myself as an example. I have to understand how to get people's attention and to provide them a valuable product and maintain all these different things. But like, my stuff's a little bit more intellectual than gardening, but still, a garden shop, in order to be successful, has to do all those things. The entrepreneur is just now using some other tools, which, if you follow like what's the trends, kids are growing up in the internet age anyway, so they're already going to have those skills given to them, which are just going to translate into how to be, how to talk to a camera, how to connect with people, how to provide that like one-on-one experience, even though you're like transmitting yourself to potentially millions of people. So
I feel like we're going to end up leaving a lot of people out of the economy that way. There are a lot of people for whom that's not a realistic, especially if you look at some of these fields where I don't think gardening is necessarily a strong example of that. But what if you just really love plants and earth and helping people to sustain that, and you aren't able to build that kind of audience, and you're not able to, and what under the small store model, they can do that. They can make the decisions for the store as far as what they're going to be stocking, what products they should be using. They're doing, there's not as much pressure on them to do all of those different things. If there is an entrepreneur who starts this business, has an idea, loves to garden for fun themselves, wants to have a business, but eventually takes on these people who sort of specialize in each of these areas, know? And so I think small and medium businesses, they sort of are, if they're successful on any level, or some people don't want to scale, they just want to stay the size they are. In my experience with my customer base, most of them do have some specialization within. They don't have to be running technology and on camera, charisma, and convincing people to pay them. Their market comes to them for the products, not for the personality.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you think that, you said something about it might revert back to, because it'll run out of gas if Amazon takes over just the shipping of products, but does it want to do that? Because it's not just content with being a retail; it wants to also take over the manufacturing too.
Yes. So they will figure out who makes these products. They will either get the lowest price for themselves or take it over themselves eventually, and they will also be the fleet, the delivery fleet. So start to finish, they could be the whole entity. But eventually, unless you develop some system, which I don't think there's any guarantee of, where you have these specialists who are sort of freelancing for views and dollars, that, you know, advertising dollars, who are able to guide the development of that specialty for Amazon, you know, we're not going to have this
innovation
garden shop anymore.
So are you saying that Amazon is going to squash innovative ideas and better ideas?
Yeah.
If they're doing it correctly, they're just looking for whatever succeeds. So they potentially could just become smart enough to say, we're going to give enough freedom so that we can find the next thing to exploit, you know, like, so we don't run out, or else it'll just get crusty and kind of fall apart. Like, potentially they could foster that innovation, or just allow enough, you know, the market's just bigger than Amazon. It's going to get new ideas, and those ideas will just be exploited by Amazon, or, you know, by exploited, that sounds negative, but they could just be providing a service to make it more efficient.
Well, yeah, I think it sort of comes down to how, you know, the Amazon will serve the mass as well. But when you're looking at specialty, anything specialized, anything where people are willing to pay more for something that isn't immediately recognizable, identifiable as having the value that the price tag would reflect. So, I mean, have you ever gone into a shop and come out with some product that you didn't expect to buy because something you've never heard of and wouldn't have heard of because it was local, or it was sort of, you know, something that only somebody who was really interested, you know, the example could be like a back in the olden days when you go to the music store and, you know, buy something that someone working there who knew and was really passionate. I think we're going to lose the sense of passion and enthusiasm for these specialized areas where people are willing to, we rely on that a lot with any type of specialty retailer. Somebody who's really saying, I see something here, I'm committed to it, even if it's not immediately profitable, because Amazon isn't going to care about something that's not profitable. They're not going to be necessarily dredging here's this product that
but they're not gonna stop those things from being listed on their stores, and that accidental you know, stumbling upon something new is still happening on YouTube and on Twitter. It's just happening where people are spending their time. There are people who are always trying to grab our attention wherever our attention goes. So why would Amazon stop somebody from putting their widget on the store? Or why would it be disincentivized for an inventor to make up their own website, do their own advertising, and then get big enough to just list it on Amazon, and then Amazon buys them out or takes them over or something like that? Like,
so you get to an interesting point, which is the Amazon listing system. So they might carry it, you might just never see it.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of attention and energy spent by retailers on trying to stay in those top listings.
Yeah.
And that requires retailers to make a lot of decisions that I think are hurting them now. So, and I'll get to that.
Yeah.
Remind you to go back to that, because that matters for from the pandemic perspective. But when you're listed on Amazon, you know, you can do that. You can sort of buy your way in. You can advertise your way in. Popularity is obviously a way to get there. Yeah. The number of people who are buying, promoting yourself, and so on. So it's not that Amazon wouldn't be willing to sell these things that are obscure and sort of special, really, you know, not something that is going to ever be popular or super profitable for any retailer. It's that they'll be almost impossible to find. You know, that you would be having to go, you're not going to have someone who's going to necessarily find that, who would have stumbled across it in a, you know, brick and mortar store. You know, somebody who's really going to go, you're not able to go into the aisle and physically look at this and be like, what is this? This is caught my eye. This is sort of what I'm looking for. Maybe this person who's working here can tell me about it and why I would use this instead. you're facing, thousands of choices, too many choices. As a consumer, do we even really want to be making those choices ourselves?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, the answer is no. I don't. There's that paralysis that sets in where, I've definitely gone past 20 pages of Amazon listings to find just the right thing. But, so we are limiting that. We'd have to be really digging.
Well, that's one particular probably problem with the Amazon website in and of itself. Not necessarily what Amazon's doing, but other websites can fill that in. And if Amazon's smart at all, it would create like just a virtual VR experience. Like just walk among the shelves. Like when I was a teenager, they built a Walmart in my town, and me and my friends would just go there and goof around. Like because it was just like this huge store with all these stores in this side, this one store. So you can just replicate that, or other websites can replicate that. So I don't see how that's a problem. If I need to go and get a trash can on Amazon, I might not end up getting a garden hose like I would have in the warehouse. But when I need the garden hose, I guess there's a limiting with the website, but I don't see how that's necessarily a negative thing. It takes the that accidental stumbling upon portion of income spending, which seems almost like you don't need to buy that thing, or you only need to buy what you're looking for. And so there's a lot of retailers just trying to grab your attention. Otherwise, you wouldn't have buy those things, like those magazines at the end of the grocery shopping experience, or the Tic Tacs there, but other human beings are just going to want to keep on participating in economics and buying and selling things because we get off on that. So I don't see how that's necessarily a bad thing. If you can't find things on Amazon, you'll find them somewhere else, or Amazon will allow you.
Will you? I mean, that's the issue. Is will there be these places? Okay. Doesn't matter that we might not have the local garden shop anymore because they've been closed out by Amazon. They've that Amazon, it becomes our only choice for, there is no local store. You cannot go and browse the aisle. You were looking for some type of, heirloom tomato seed or something that, that you would have stumbled across at your local garden shop. And that will no longer be a choice that you're able to easily make in a 15-minute trip to the local store. Yeah. Does that matter?
Yeah, does it?
I mean, it does to me, but it might not to other people, and that's fine. I'm not making a judgment on that. I'm just saying that when you're buying from Amazon instead of Gardens R Us, you are making that choice. You are leading long term to that choice. So that's just one of those things that I hope people are thinking about. Yeah.
Well, okay, so here's another question. With regards to the logistics of, let's say that Amazon creates a UPS competitor and then figures out a way to just stop using fossil fuels, and they figure out some sort of battery that they buy that actually doesn't do worse for the environment than the fossil fuels. Couldn't that be they revitalize or just restart a whole industry by swapping out combustion engines with another form of engine or something like? Isn't that a possibility? Or would it just be that should we worry about them not doing that and being very wasteful on the logistic level? If they take out their competition, would they need to compete anymore?
So there are a few concerns that I would have with them taking out their competition. FedEx, for example, ditched Amazon a couple months ago because Amazon was, it was sort of a mutual breakup at that point. But the question is, for carriers to work with Amazon, you are getting sort of a lot of volume. You're sending your drivers out to not just to commercial businesses, but you're also sending them out to residential addresses every day, which the cost of service for that is high. People are inevitably using a lot more fuel for having everything individually delivered to their house, which is another thing to consider if you are very, conscientious of this sort of thing. But so as they are building their own delivery fleet, before they were just always contracting with these other carriers, and now they've been building their own fleet. which it has not been subject to the same standards as the other carriers. So ProPublica did an expose on this last year, I believe, on how Amazon was subcontracting out with, anyone with a van can basically deliver for Amazon, but they're not employees of Amazon. Yeah. And they kill people because you have inexperienced people racing around like maniacs trying to deliver the number of packages to the destinations that they've been told they should be able to do, successfully within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, they risk not getting paid.
Yeah.
That's not how other carriers work. Yeah. Other carriers have very highly trained union employees, for example, who are experienced, who are constantly trained in this function. It's not me going to rent a rider truck and getting the back of it loaded and racing around in an area I'm unfamiliar with to deliver packages to meet deadlines for this company I don't even work for. That's a lot of pressure that has led to deaths. I mean, and if it were all FedEx or UPS or post office vehicles doing this would get a lot more attention. Amazon has not accepted responsibility for these, saying that, it's not there. They weren't the ones that hired these people. These were subcontractors.
Yeah.
I mean, so they have to go through all of the same things that any other carrier has gone through in developing these things. And to your point about sustainability, all of these companies are doing it. If it's in their economic best interest, their financial best interest, of course they're innovating. So the question is, why would we assume that Amazon is necessarily doing it better? Mm-hmm. Just because Amazon is Amazon? I don't think, Amazon is going through the whole learning process that all of these other more experienced companies have gone through to figure out how to do this thing that's already being done.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, making a mess of it.
Okay, but is that mess going to get bigger to a point where they're going to be called out, or will they figure out that mess is not something that they want to maintain, so they're going to clean up that mess? So if they start to do like the Uber thing, like we're just going to contract out the delivery, and I've gotten a couple of those deliveries. It's going like, wait, you didn't send me my thing. And then now Amazon's going to build its own fleet, say, well, we could shop it out here, we could do it in-house. If we do it in-house, then we have to be regulated. Or at least we are responsible. So, but the bottom line, it works out better for us to just be more responsible because I'm sure insofar as people are dying doing that, it's just not efficient in other metrics other than just human life. It's just like they're not consistent enough. We want consistency. Like we don't want, wouldn't it just work out over time?
So yeah, they have started their own. They have their own now. Their Prime fleet. So these are people who are. Yes, so that they actually look like they're working for Amazon. It's not just some shady guy pulling in your driveway at, 10 o'clock at night and leaving something, that they are actually identifiable as Amazon employees. One really critical thing to note is that the intention is, to fully replace their competitors. Based on where they're setting up shop, they're trying to drive competitors out. One of the things that I would say has been really important is that the standards that they have to meet for hiring those drivers has been set to a certain extent by the unionized competitors' workforce.
Okay. Yeah.
So their wages are higher than they would be for any similar, position delivering or whatever. How long does that last if there's no competitor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not only is, and they're not unionized. They're not going to have the same benefits. They're not going to have the same experience. The work conditions, based on what Amazon employees have said publicly, it's, if they're not able to, if workers aren't able to organize, they're very limited in terms of what they can change.
Mm-hmm. And how would that be corrected? How would that not happen?
I would say having competition is good.
Yeah.
So that's where consumers have choices. This goes back to the consumers and why it matters that people think about this. So one of the things that's changed in the industry is Prime has set the standard that people want it same day, next day, weekend. So you do you really need it? Think about this when you're ordering. Do you really need something on Sunday? What are you requiring when you want something on your doorstep on Sunday that really doesn't need to be there? You know, if you could really wait a couple of days.
Yeah.
What's required in that? How much labor does that require? And how much is somebody getting paid for that? Why is it free? Is it free? It's not free. Everyone knows it's not free if they think about it. Yeah. But that's a demand. People won't shop for a product that costs $20 if there's free shipping on Amazon and it costs $25 there and it's $20 plus $5 shipping. They'll always go with Amazon. The idea of free matters. But when you're requiring that a workforce is 7 days a week, 12 plus hours a day, that you expect these things instantly, no matter where you're located. If you're in a residential neighborhood away from any sort of distribution center, think about that. How is somebody getting to your house? What are the costs involved in that? You may be paying, let's say you are paying a couple dollars less or you're getting it there a day sooner. What are you ultimately choosing here?
Contributing to.
Yeah. So the quality of life for people who are in these industries, working on holidays, weekends, all hours of the day, what are you asking of them? Does that matter? And here's the thing, that I've been in that position where I was delivering stuff, and it's stuff to people's houses on Sundays in the middle of nowhere. And, the number of people who are like, oh, what are you doing here? It's a Sunday. It's like, well, you ordered this.
Yeah.
Today. And I just want people to think about that. What are you requiring? What are you choosing?
You mentioned earlier, to get you back onto this, you said that there's decisions that these companies are making that are hurting them now in order to get on the website with regards to, I think, the current COVID thing.
Yeah. So there are different types of ways to sell through Amazon. Some companies do they self-fulfill. So and so that wouldn't necessarily be a Prime, or it might be one of the choices when you're looking at, let's just say you're ordering a phone accessory. Okay, there may be phone accessories that are in that listing. There may be Prime choices. Those are going to be fulfilled by Prime from their fulfillment centers. There are in those listings, you can see that there will be other sellers of that item. So they'll be shipping it out from their own location. Think about what that choice is, because that matters. So everything that's now, it would be fulfilled by Amazon. If it's in their distribution center right now, and it is not an essential item, it isn't going anywhere. We don't know when it's going to start going places, right? Amazon has said, we're focusing on essential goods right now. Yeah. So these sellers who recognize that in order to sell more, they needed to be Prime, the Prime seller, that they needed to provide the product to Amazon ahead of time. Now they have stuff stuck in
now their stock is, giving people time to think about it and then cancel it, and then they lose out on the sale. Or
and they don't have it even to sell out of their own
and they
website.
Can't
so
make
a lot of companies sell from their own website. Okay, which is another choice that I would recommend people always consider. Is if you see stuff that you like, go to that. See if there's a listing with and it's a company and it's not just somebody who's selling only through Amazon. A lot of stores are forced to sell as partner with Amazon, even though they know Amazon is looking at the data and figuring out how to replace them, how to figure out what are all the things that store A sells, so that store A will eventually not exist and we will have become store A. Go to those websites. It might be cheaper, it might be faster, they might also have free shipping, and you can keep them in business without them having to pay Amazon for being essentially a middleman. Yeah. And right now their stuff is being held hostage.
Yeah. Okay. Fascinating. Weren't retail people always, by definition, middlemen, the merchants?
Yes. But most of us don't want to be in the business of acquiring, warehousing, Certainly there are so many parts of the supply chain that I wouldn't want anything to do with. If you get a phone and a case, and you don't want to have to go and pick out all the components yourself. You don't want to have to figure out how to make plastic and, cases. So the supply chain is getting shorter in a lot of ways. So, for example, now I could figure out who manufactures the case, right? I could figure out how to communicate with somebody in China that sells these things. I could say, this is what I want my product to look like. How much is it going to cost? I could arrange for transportation, on an ocean, freight cargo. Yeah. I could have a container load. Where am I going to keep a container load? That's a thing that we don't really want to be doing, right? So, we all could have a pod in our driveway of the things that we would be buying.
Selling, yeah.
Yeah. So retailers have, functions other than just, they're doing a lot of that work for us. Amazon is doing that on a really big scale, I guess.
Yeah. And is it inherently, so what's so scary about having one company doing all of that? Other than, I guess one of the main things is that there's no competition, or they're taking out their competition so that there's a decrease incentive for them to get better at what they're doing. So we do want to have some sort of competitor, but why do they not have a competitor? Did they just get ahead of the pack, or?
Yeah, I think they got ahead of the pack. I think that's a really good question, and I can't really answer it entirely. I think the way it came about, it was like a bookseller at first, right? So you're like, oh, it's a bookseller. Oh, now they have other stuff. Oh, cool. Now I don't, and it's really nice to not leave your house. I love to not leave my house. I love these stay-at-home orders, so I like being able to browse without having to go to a store. Yeah. There are things that are so attractive about it. I don't really know why we are okay. So, all of the anger about Walmart, that's right, rightful in terms of, okay, you have this business coming in, shutting down all the local stores, not great working conditions, not a great employer. And then what happens if the store closes? Or they move to a town further away. That's where, and also, look, who do you want to go shopping for you? Because retailers, that's what they're doing. They're shopping for you. Yeah. There is nobody in my life that I would trust to do all my shopping for me. Okay. Or to be like, here are the choices of things you can have. Think about the people who know you best in the whole, in your life. The people who are closest to you. Would you let them pick out all of the things you could ever have as choices? Yeah. No, there's stuff that I love that, like, my partner would be like, oh God, please don't, so I feel like that's, I'm like letting Jeff Bezos do that with everything that's a choice to me is only something that has captured the attention of Amazon. Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. With regards to the Amazon portal into their warehouse. But if you're on Twitter too, and you get like, I'm really into like these varieties of tomatoes, and then you find all these different people who have really delved deep in there. And one person you stumble upon has this wonderful heirloom. It's like purple and like some sort of Grinchy spots or something like that. And Mary Magdalene kind of pops out at the end of the cycle. You're like, oh, I want to buy those seeds. Why then? What's stopping Amazon from just having those seeds on hand? They're not turning you on to the product. They don't need to turn you on to the product. They're just having the product. They're not stopping you from finding the product, especially if your curiosity, it's going to be very lucrative for other people to be, giving you options and stuff and letting you get into things. And you're going to drive your own research from your home through your computer into all these different products. And it's not like you're going to rely on Amazon for everything, but if they have everything at the end of the day, would you not just go there?
You say that they might not, we're not only going to be relying on Amazon. Amazon very well could, as a result of what's going on right now, end up being the only one standing. You might not have after, and I don't want to give dire, warnings of what's going on right now. where I live, there are, very limited shops open.
Yeah.
Any sort of tomato gardening shop is not going to be, they'd be only allowed to sell online right now. So any of that business, if they can't survive on that, we might not have those other tomato seed, specialty tomato seed sellers. So we would have to rely on Amazon. And when I say we, that also includes 85-year-old gardeners who are not going to be on Twitter able to do this research. We're putting a lot of work on the consumer. And I don't want to do that work necessarily. For something I enjoy, maybe. But sometimes you just want your tomato seeds and you want to just go and kind of see what's available.
Yeah.
And you want that for other people who aren't as competent and capable and interested, Yeah.
Okay.
You want like grandparents and, people who aren't, for whatever reason, have limited access or ability with computers. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people.
But that's not necessarily the fault of Amazon. That's the fault of the government for shutting everything down. The government de facto is giving Amazon, or Amazon was just perfectly primed to to be there when everything else closed. So it's kind of a...
Yeah, I mean, they are, but they're not. Right now, they're not selling, so they might be the only one that's open. They're able to keep their other business going, so they're not necessarily suffering the same. They sell those heirloom tomato seeds along with, all the things that face masks and diapers and things that are essential. So the only retailers that are allowed to be open are the ones that have essentials as well, which your heirloom garden tomato is not going... You're going to only be able to get it from these bigger retailers. Yeah. So I don't want to seem like I'm just picking on Amazon. It's about limiting our choices overall.
Yeah.
Do we only want big stores that have everything under one roof, whether that's a brick and mortar or online?
Mm-hmm.
And again, like that may be a choice that people are okay with.
Yeah.
But I would ask that we consider the people for whom that really isn't a choice. That maybe we need to think about the people who aren't able to make who really look. This has been forever an issue with food deserts in communities, where there's no supermarket. It's only bodegas for miles and miles, and so certainly there are consumer choices that we all make on a very individual level that sort of add up. Something that has an impact on, like, really even the quality of other people's lives who have fewer choices.
Would you would you consider, what's your opinion on the government just taking over Amazon?
I think that the government taking over Amazon is a terrible idea.
It's worse than Amazon taking over everything else.
Because I don't think that the government knows how to be Amazon either. I mean, I think this is the solution, it's so far you're saying
solution is individual choice.
I'm a capitalist, and which, I also,
it's okay to be a capitalist.
Well, I think that people's nature, it's in people's nature to, at least in America, I mean, and in most places, look, people are selfish, and we can ask them to do certain things, or we can make them do certain things. And I prefer to be in a society where we ask, or we strongly encourage, and it's not forced upon us.
Yeah.
I think communism has been tried; it hasn't worked out. So let's not do that again. Let's not. It's just not a fit here, and you're gonna discourage anybody from ever wanting to go out on a limb and open a store that sells all these specialty heirloom tomato seed varieties.
Yeah.
Why would you when the government is in charge of picking what tomatoes people eat? I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want my choices limited by Jeff Bezos or by federal government or the local government. This is something I'm finding very troubling during what I'm seeing online, just in general, and this isn't specific to logistics or anything, but this idea right now that has really devaluing work and labor and ownership and production, and everyone wants toilet paper and free rent and checks from the government, but doesn't seem to understand where they come from.
Yeah.
And I am absolutely on the political left probably closer to the center, but it's almost like a very juvenile idealism about like, yeah, we should take over Amazon. What? Like how? What? Why would anyone want to be part of anything?
It might be the case that because there's not a lot of grandparents on Twitter, like that, like teenagers are overrepresented in the conversation, and they all get together and upvote things. I know.
Name, but,
Shamus Swan.
Yeah. And I mean, even with Bernie Sanders, he's a freaking grandpa, and he has some of the same ideas as far as that are just very disconnected from economic realities.
Yeah.
Not even going to get into everything about him, but I think I say this as somebody who's in an industry where people work really hard, really, really hard. We work very hard to get you the stuff that you need to live, and we do it regardless of pandemics and blizzards and Christmas and all of these things. And the people who do it, the union members certainly are rewarded for it, and that's why they keep doing it.
Yeah, okay.
It's really important to recognize that there are still jobs in America where you can work hard and get rewarded for that. You can still work your way up. You don't have to have a college degree to be in a facility where you're sorting the packages that contain the essential goods that are going to people's houses when they can't leave home.
Yeah. And if you prove your competence, then you get to manage. And if you prove your competence there, you can start to design and innovate.
And a good company will recognize that, right? I mean, we know this. That's how companies stay afloat and continue to grow and thrive in the 21st century. And I think people have sort of gotten very jaded about that, but it's still out there. And I would say, having managed people in one of those facilities, younger people are not willing to work. The physical labor. People are really disconnected from the idea that there's physical labor required to do these things. To get stuff to your house, someone is standing on their feet, moving heavy packages, risking injury, driving for hours at a time, doing physically uncomfortable things that may make your back hurt the next day. People aren't really like the younger generation is definitely not willing to do that. They'll look at you and go, "This is really hard." I'm like, yes.
And then they get online and complain about their job and how Bernie Sanders is going to fix everything and free Medicare and free college.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself turning into like a get off my lawn type of person from managing, the generation. Is it Generation Z?
Probably millennial. Well, I don't know.
No, I'm on the upper limit of millennial. Okay. Although there's a very big disconnect between the tiers of millennials. I definitely find myself relating to the Gen X more in terms of like the some of the sort of I'm really jaded, but I'm also saw my parents and grandparents' generations that you worked hard and you got rewarded. There wasn't so much of this expectation of things. There's a lot of demanding going on.
Yeah, a lot of entitlement.
Without a lot of input, whether it's labor input or really committed to understanding, when people are screaming about don't pay the landlords and take over Amazon, do you really understand what any of that means?
Yeah, do you understand like the entire system and what it's built out of? So if you agree with the free market in principle and you agree with meritocracy, I don't want to project that onto you, but it sounds like you're saying you work hard. What we need to do is set up a feedback loop where hard work is rewarded. When you get to the level of Amazon, how does the game field change where they could just gobble up everything like Standard Oil or like those railroads back in the day that kind of under certain narratives led to the Great Depression? How do you make sure that our reliance on Amazon doesn't become total, and how do you resist that without regulation or overstep of a government body which doesn't really understand how to work efficiently to begin with?
So I listened to your show and then I email you and I'm like, hey, that thing you were talking about, I want to talk about that. So getting out I know this is such a small way of doing it, but getting people involved, that I don't know that the government can fix this. I don't know that there's one solution or that it can happen entirely at the state level. It's that we as consumers need to take responsibility for how we're consuming, what we're, the way the demands that we're putting on
the
retailers.
system. Yeah.
And the system. And so if people want everything here tomorrow and they're willing to accept the system that Amazon is, that's fine. Like, I have to accept that may be the ultimate outcome here. But I don't think that's what people want. Like, if people are thinking really into a very minute level about purchases and ethics and,
GMO.
Yes. Yeah. Like, if you're really examining all of these things on such a close level,
projecting
why
value
are you
onto
okay with the mechanism that is Prime?
Yeah.
Why are you not looking closer at that? And I don't know. I think that Amazon is sort of, it's this, they've got the smiley face logo and it's sort of invisible. It's definitely more invisible, but I think it's really convenient, so people don't want to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We may end up with this. This may be somewhat inevitable, but
we can't make a actual moral, ethical decision without understanding what we're even deciding. And if that stuff's hidden, then you need to understand what's going on. So information's the first step then. Talking about how the system actually works, where the loads are, who's getting harmed by this, what's getting harmed by this, and then you can kind of do a calculus and create some sort of kosher shipping method or kosher Prime stamps. Like, this is provided with fair trade. Like one of those value systems comes up.
Yeah, our employees getting fair wages, health care, things like this. That and are you? And I mean, we also need to take responsibility for what we're willing to pay for stuff. If you're going to just buy the cheapest of everything and you want it there as fast as possible, you have to think about how much, like, okay, if I have a computer mouse that I paid.
It's so cute.
It is, isn't it cute? I love it. I absolutely love it. And I can't go back to using a full-size mouse. So, this is this is my, I actually did buy this in person at Staples because it was
Impulse?
something that
it caught your eye. You had a relationship. It just jumped.
No, I had a previous one and it was black, and then I was in Staples buying something else, and my black one had broken, and I had just been using the touchpad, and I was like, they have the little ones and they have this. But so this is like $15, and you have to think about, like, what could you make yourself for $15?
Yeah.
I mean, like, nothing. Maybe nail together some sticks from my yard. I probably
make a plant holder. Yeah.
Right. I'm kind of sad to think about, like, what could you manufacture yourself? How much would you expect to be paid for even just putting pieces of this together?
Yeah.
How many hours would that take? Okay, so let's say somebody trained you. How much would you expect to make after that? How long would you expect it to take to your house? How much would you pay for somebody to bring this to you? So I don't know that I'm more ethical for buying it at Staples than I am for, based on that price. But I'm saying, let's start thinking about what things cost and why you do that, Yeah,
sociopathy, sociopathy, the inability to care about somebody else's suffering, it's a constant condition. We can't project ourselves into the infinity of just that mouse, right? Or just like all the people working just to get this call connected, and then to house it on a server somewhere and to hook you up with it, the viewer, like we can't care about all those things. We only have a limited amount of shits to give, so
right. So no, certainly there's that compassion fatigue that sets in where I have a family member who is currently not eating chocolate because of the child labor that goes into that.
Oh, okay.
And I cannot it's my kid. So it makes it hard because I am constantly eating chocolate and asking if he wants chocolate. And and then he has to remind me.
You're like
and
Satan,
I'm like,
and he's
yeah.
Jesus. He's like,
yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really shouldn't be eating this either, except I'm still eating it. So right, like I'm a hypocrite. I'm absolutely a hypocrite. Like, if I were a perfect person, I would do this for all these things. You know?
I'm just, I it's difficult to care, but that's why it's important to have the conversations. And again, like with the whole Kashama Sawant thing, and like, it's like,
were
okay.
you drunk in that, by the way? You were laughing really hard. You were.
I've been under quarantine, so it's giving rise to different behaviors depending on when I press record. So no, yeah. I was not under.
You were just laughing, so it was fun to watch with your sort of commentary because you were like laughing so hard.
Well, it's kind of funny to me that she.
It is. It's insane.
Yeah, but like getting to, and that's what I was trying to say, I don't know if I said it correctly or not, but getting to like the underlying values is like, okay, I can't care about everything, but I can make certain choices in my life, or I can just try to return to certain values. And so meritocracy is a very fundamental value, because even though I've failed a whole lot in life, that has caused me to really appreciate people who have succeeded. And for other people who fail constantly, they become resentful towards people who succeed. And I see that when I've like tried out being resentful, it actually makes my life worse. So I argue for, actually like taking your failures and rewarding success and looking for a new way to be successful, because eventually, whether or not you get what you expect, I believe that even if you don't get the feedback of reward, you will be rewarded by putting in the effort, just on a character level. So with regards to projecting my value system onto how what I buy is what I buy, like there's just little questions that I think I can propose to the audience or propose to myself that I don't feel are moralizing, because I don't like being moralizing. But can you practice delayed gratification? Like, is that something that you could just practice and like see, okay, I don't need it in 3 days, like, and I think even Amazon smartly enough put up, like, you can get it all delivered on one day. That's the ethical thing. All your deliveries will come on a Monday, like, so, and they'll all come in one box or something like that. So delayed gratification. What are some other values that or just some questions?
Yeah, and I would say another one is if you value choices from people who are specialized and really passionate about what they, retailers or creators of any kind. Amazon doesn't just sell goods, they sell artwork, they sell things that are handmade. Or so instead of rewarding Amazon for that, figure out what you like and maybe think about, should the creators of those things be directly rewarded? Do you want choices? Do you want to reward people for their ideas and their talent? How much of that do you want a third party to take a cut of? And are the terms under which they're rewarded, are they ethical when they're working with a third party, middleman like Amazon? Mm-hmm. And that's not just Amazon. I mean, that's any big retailer that's, selling something that someone else has created. And another thing would be, what are the types of jobs we want to have in this world? A lot of people are employed in retail. A lot of people are employed in logistics. Amazon is the retail giant, and they're becoming a logistics giant. Do you want to work in an Amazon warehouse? Is that the dream job for you or your children? When you're, would you rather work? Because I'd rather work. I have no particular, I kill all my plants. I serial killer of cacti, but I would rather work at Gardens R Us for the rest of my life than Amazon in their in their fulfillment centers.
Yeah,
that's just me. Other people may not care, but same with the, working in an Amazon center. You've seen those places. They're and maybe you haven't. I would encourage people to see what those look like online. Read about what people have said it was like working there, the conditions there. Consider whether it's worth having a unionized workforce where people who are working in, this is hard work. Like I said before, mm-hmm. Getting you your stuff is hard work. Somebody is doing it somewhere. Mm-hmm. What happens if that person gets injured? What happens if that person is pregnant and can't lift heavy boxes off shelves to get you your stuff? what do you want for those people? Or those, does that matter? And it might not. It might not, you know, when you're shopping, you might not care if your retail associate or, you know, fulfiller has maternity leave or whatever. I don't, you know, and that's not a criticism entirely of Amazon at all. That's truly a big box, big retailer versus smaller companies, and sort of thinking about, because the economy is going to be different. The job market is going to be changed by this forever. We know this. Like, there are businesses that will not survive this. How do we support? We now more than ever have an obligation to consider how to make that what we want it to be afterwards. How, you know, as we're sort of rebuilding, what we want to be doing, what we want. Do we like shopping in person? Do we like going to stores and having that choice?
Or do we want our influencers to like show us the product for us? A little bit of extra of this or a little bit of smooth that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've just never really, I'm not that interested in that stuff. I'm not that easily influenced by influencers.
That's what you say, but...
No, but like they're way too like pretty and stylish, and I'm like, that's not what it would look like on me. You know, my skin would never be like that. It's just unrealistic expectations. So, I don't enjoy that. I don't want to have to be, you know, searching out essentially ads for the things that I end up buying. Yeah. I sometimes just like to go and browse and have people leave me alone and then pick out what I want and, you know, and just come home and be done with it. Yeah. You know? So, yeah, I think people have to think about, is that an experience that they want? Or are they okay having everything to their doorstep? Yeah. Does everyone in their life have that capacity to get things that way? I would say no. I mean, I have a family that's sort of all over the socioeconomic spectrum. Not everyone would be able to get things that way. Would I be okay with having to do all that labor of getting everyone everything they need, you know? Not everyone is, some people are okay with that, you know?
I err on the side of capitalism, but I feel like socialism, I don't think it works as an economic system, but I do think it works as a humanitarian system. It does have a certain claim, like, how do I want people to be treated, and how can I enact that in a capitalistic manner? Like, how do my values up here, how do I reflect them in the reality of selfish interest and, you know, efficiency and just cutting corners at all costs to see what pays off, you know? Like, it's a difficult thing to hold both value sets, and not to say, you know, capitalism is more realistic than socialism, but I don't think capitalistically when I'm interacting with a human being or when I'm thinking about my family. Like, and so trying to do you? You guys
I'm like, you're not even economically productive. I don't even know why we're talking about that.
I renounce you. It's just,
I think you're right. Like that I agree. Like, I think everyone should have access to healthcare. I think that even if you're not economically productive, that we need to take care of you as a society. That we need to figure out ways. Yeah, I mean, I was like I went through this like big Ayn Rand fan girl situation when I was like in high school, because there was an essay contest for a scholarship. So my mom was like, here, read this book and then write about it. And it was The Fountainhead. And then I went on to read everything. And I was like, yeah, it's the creators and all these like, you know, menial idiots are just interfering with it. And then I was like, but what about like the disabled or the elderly? Or, you know, we like have all these other people that we need to be taken care of in society. And I think economics, the capitalism is patriarchal. I know you don't believe in that, your issues with patriarchy, but I think that it's excluded the labor of women, which is, you know, certainly something that. So we do need to sort of think about how everyone is contributing to some to our society, and make sure that we're fully accounting for that when we're looking at things. Okay. So, especially now, you know, we see a lot of the work that goes into taking care of people is performed by women, and, you know, not necessarily rewarded to the same extent. But, I do think I'm not a purist. You know, the market will always adjust. I'm not okay with letting people die en masse while the market sorts itself out, you know, to be like, well, if we really want a vaccine for something, the market will provide, you know. I'm not okay with waiting for the market on everything. I don't think that the market forces are what Adam Smith would say they are.
This is kind of off topic and it might be a vulnerable question for you, but do you think that the government should just reboot the economy like at the end of April? Do you think we should just, take our knocks and go forward? What's your cost benefit analysis of that?
So I think that, my big question mark is the antibody testing. When can we get that? And when can we get those people back to work? That, to me, has been from day one. I'm like, how do we figure out who is safe to be out in the world and make sure that they're out in the world keeping things going? Yeah. I know, based on my work, that a lot of people are working that shouldn't, like, legally, the state has said you can't be working, and they're still, working like crazy, doing whatever they can to stay afloat. And we have to recognize the costs involved in not letting people work and earn and keep their businesses going. So I think we're going to get to a point where we need to identify who is truly vulnerable and who needs to be sheltered. And maybe the rest of us need to bear the costs of allowing them to continue doing that while getting back to work. I have a loved one who's in a country that's under full lockdown, and they, their country does not have the same resources to treat people when they're sick. If thousands of people are needing to go to the ICU, they don't have capacity for that. So there's no choice there. Here, I think we're going to have to accept that there's going to be the peaks and valleys where we, shut things down temporarily, then reopen, and then as things start to build up, maybe do it again. But I mean, it's interesting to see how many people I know who are still working every day and haven't fallen to this. We do know more now about vulnerability. Oh, and I have a 99-year-old relative who tested positive and is clear.
Asymptomatic or?
2 weeks in, nothing.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And in a facility where other people died. So it's not, that was why they were tested. But I just wanted to share that because that's really good. We don't hear about, so I think there's a lot we don't know about the people who don't die, who aren't even symptomatic. So, I'm kind of, that is the capitalist in me. But I think it's also just recognizing that there are costs to keeping everyone at home. Yeah. And not letting, what are they supposed to do in 2 months? $1,200 isn't going to get you anywhere, That's...
I really think that we're this is kind of a stupid note. In light of the severity of what we're going through, the reality of the situation, but the tonality of the culture war, at least represented on Twitter and in other social media, is really proving to not be good at making a clear decision because everybody's incentivized to politicize whether they're right and that other person's wrong. I'm just thinking Trump, all that built up, all that built up reactionary vitriol against Trump is actually obscuring the reality that the leader needs to make a decision and people are going to suffer either way. And we're going to have to be adults about that somehow. And I'm praying, I'm hoping that whole mode of interacting that has taken hold of the body politic, at least on these websites, at least in public discourse, really is proven to be insufficient at actually dealing with reality because it's always inflating reality into unrealistic us versus them bullshit.
Yeah, I think if you look at what Sweden's done, which is basically nothing, I don't know if you're familiar with their approach to coronavirus.
A little bit.
They're nothing. They're basically saying be sensible and kind of make sure you wash your hands and don't get too close to other people. Everything is open. Bars, restaurants, shops, everything. They have one of the higher death tolls, but they also don't have the worst, and they are not killing their economy. And what I've found interesting is that it's not explicitly acknowledged that that's what they're doing. It is
by who?
By their leaders or their, that it's not, we recognize that. So they aren't saying, we recognize that more people will die, most likely, as a result of this. We are saying that this is the choice we're making for the greater good of the country. That is not, I guess, a thing that you can say as a politician, which is why I would be so bad in politics, because I'd be like, look, here's the reality, guys. can kill your grandparents, but the rest of you get to have a future. Are you in or not? You know?
Yeah, it doesn't sell over here.
No, it doesn't sell. It sounds really bad. But I think, and that's always been one of the things that's interesting to me is that, you know, there's this sort of socialist fetishizing on the left in the U.S. about how these countries are so much better than us. And I'm like, have you met people from these countries? They're actually a little bit cold, and not cold, but pragmatic.
Yeah.
That they're able to have conversations that we don't have here about, you know, and sort of recognizing like, well, you know, it was my turn and now it's your turn. And that's just the way things are going to be. And so
now I'm thinking of the movie Midsommar and how that was set in a Nordic country. I don't know if you saw that.
Wait, which one is that?
It's about the girl who has some trauma and she goes to like a kind of a earthy cult in the woods and things get
no,
really...
I was thinking that with the wellness retreat thing, the horror movie. No, I have to watch that.
You should watch it. But there's a reason why it's set, and they do that. Like, it's my turn, I've taken one for the team, and they really ramp up that kind of attitude to, like, the next level, so...
Yeah, I'm like, there's reasons why certain things don't play in America. Like, why certain things don't work here. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, research on why things work in mono-ethnic, you know, homogenous, small countries that are more, you know, or that have more square feet per individual and so on, you know, that just don't work in like a diverse, multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic, you know, these
melting pot.
What's that?
The melting pot.
Yeah, the melting pot is just, things aren't going to be the same here. Like, people aren't going to be like, well, we're on the same team with everything. You know, they're going to be more self-interested. I mean, I think that's been pretty compellingly demonstrated in different areas of sociological research. But I think that Sweden is doing this, and there are people in Sweden who are disagreeing with what they've chosen to do. But
by and large, they're just getting through it.
Yeah, and I think that that's what we're doing without saying that that's what we're doing. I think Trump gives very incoherent messages.
He's not the best communicator. So, like, a large portion of the people hating on him have some valid concerns, but I'm just saying that...
Yes, I would say, yeah. I mean, I would definitely say, yeah. I mean, I always have to be diplomatic in my job, and
I appreciate that.
I'll have customers say to me, like, he's such a fucking idiot. And I'm like, okay, like, is it okay for me to react to that? Because I certainly, you know, I have the other side too, you know, where they're like, he's right, we got to get back to work. And, you know, and I try to stay out of it, you know, I stay out of it. But yeah, I think we are doing that. I think we are sort of saying the economy also matters. And we don't have the social safety nets that other countries do to enable an indefinite, you know, provision of, you know, everyone staying at home. We'll make sure that you have food and rent and all the things you need. So.
So somebody who's engaged in working, being as somebody who's part of probably one of the most robust systems in America at this point in history, at this very particular moment, what's the good news and the bad news that we should be knowing about what's going on right now?
So the good news is you can still get your stuff, right? Like, we still have, it's going to take longer. There are going to be shortages. People should try and read and understand a little bit about supply chains. Like, I just find it inherently fascinating to know how stuff is made, how it gets here. You know, there is a backup because it's not just America that's impacted right now. Yeah. And so this will continue on as long as other countries are impacted. So, you know, for example, India is shut down right now completely. So they are not allowing deliveries, and, you know, so there's not a lot going in or out. You know, same with a bunch of other countries that we import from and export to. So there is going to be lag. We may need to prepare for that to some extent. Think about the things you need and want and like to have in your life. And but the good thing is that we're still going. I mean, and that's really amazing to me, is how adaptable we've all been. It's taken a little bit of work to kind of adjust to that, but you can still have a truck at your house delivering you the stuff you want. You might not be able to get the exact things you want in the quantity you need right now, But that's really incredible. That's something that people in other countries still don't have, to that, anything close to that extent. But you also, that our food supply chain is also still pretty secure. There was a really interesting thread on Twitter that I'd seen, because I guess Canada had to dump some of their milk. They had to dump a lot of milk.
Okay.
Because when there are these disruptions, there is going to be loss and waste. Yeah. And stuff's going to get stuck. Stuff gets stuck in the middle somewhere. If you don't have people who are able to handle it on both sides, whether that's a plane coming out of China or on sea cargo, takes weeks to get here. That's the cheapest way that things get to America. So things that are cheap come by boat, not by plane. So people were upset that milk was getting dumped. There's stuff that's going to get wasted because we aren't able to immediately. Everyone loves the idea of making hand sanitizer at alcohol distilleries. We have to accept that there's definitely limitations to this, that we can't overnight change our manufacturing capabilities, because that's what's needed right now. And so that's another reason why I'm like, people are really disconnected. It's good to have, if you have kids who are in college, encourage them to have a job in a factory or a warehouse or something, that these are still jobs that are out there, by the way. There's a ton of manufacturing stuff. Those are all essential. They're all open. They're all these places are hiring. There is work out there. Mm-hmm. It may not be, you might have to actually physically get your hands dirty. That's another thing. But if you're out of work and you're working for a restaurant that's not going to be opening again, look at what's being made. Look at what people need. There are jobs there.
Mm-hmm. And a future, even.
Yeah. We're always going to need, so airplane parts are still being made because we still have airplanes flying. Even if they have no people on them, we still have to keep flying. And we still bring stuff over all the time. Air is how we get a lot of stuff to our country. And so, there are jobs. The jobs will change, but think about what we have and what we get and how things get here. That's where jobs are. So when people are afraid of the future, try to think about, where can I fit into that?
There's a way of looking at the situation as like opportunistically. Like, this is going to be a sea change. You can worry about Amazon, or you can take advantage of it. And I think on an individual level, this is what I hear you arguing, is that the choices you make now, because we're in such a big time of change, actually have more value than normal, right? Your dollar vote is actually pretty strong right now because of the instability of the system and how that system's corrected.
Yeah, and I think people have forgotten that they have choices outside of Amazon. So it kills me to see that Amazon is hiring right now, because who are they hiring? They're hiring people that work for shops that I would still want to have available after this. I don't want those people to have to work for Amazon.
Okay.
Remember that you can call your local Gardens R Us and be like, are you shipping right now? Because they probably are. A lot of places have one person, maybe the owner is doing this on their own, trying to keep things afloat. But a lot of places, be patient. They might have sort of a crappy, outdated website that isn't as easy to navigate, but these are the people that have the most knowledge. You can call the shop and be like, I'm looking for this thing. And you're probably going to get someone on the phone. You're probably going to have someone who's really invested in you buying from them. That's going to care a hell of a lot more than anyone at Amazon customer service ever would. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have control over a purchase that you make from these. So be patient and kind of think outside the box. You can order, yes, you have a Prime membership. You've paid for it. That's not the only place you have to shop from. You have many other choices, and value those choices. Because
if, insofar as you exercise your right to choice, you'll maintain the right to have a choice in the future.
Yeah. If you don't use it, use it or lose it, really, at this point. So, but because I know my customers are really trying to keep things going and doing whatever they can. And their websites aren't as easy to navigate. You may have to pay for shipping, but this is another thing that is really fascinating to me, is that you might be paying more on Amazon Prime just because you're not going to the retailer's website. You may pay for shipping. You're paying for shipping either way. You're always paying for shipping.
It's bundled, yeah.
Yeah, you're always paying for the cost of fulfilling an order that you're placing. Somebody has to put something in a box, put a label on it, carry it to your house. You're always paying for that somewhere. And it may not be more. It may not even be more. It may be slightly more. It may be a lot more. But a lot of times it's like roughly the same or even less.
What's your pseudonym then? Are you the logistics lady?
I can be the logistics lady.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. Let's wrap it up
maybe
now.
I could be Hannah the logistics lady. I'll be Hannah the logistics lady.
Handle?
Hannah the logistics lady.
Hannah the logistics lady, not Lois the logistics lady.
Hannah is my Starbucks name, so.
I don't know what a Starbucks name is. Is that like you got christened as a child in a Starbucks? And that was
I just like don't like having my name out in public. Like I don't want, you never know when there's like creepy people around, you know.
No, I don't. By definition, I'm just in my room.
Spoken with enough women, I think you're sort of familiar with some of the stuff we deal with out in the real world and who we want, following us out and talking to us when we haven't
clocking you, yeah.
So so I go with Hannah, and then they're like, "Was it?" And then they'll like read the cup, and they're like, "Is it Hannah or Hannah?" I'm like, "It's a name, so it doesn't really matter."
It's a hippodrome, right?
Yes, it depends how you spell it, but
from here to there, just like logistics, right?
Yes.
Backwards and forwards.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for all the insights. Let's wrap it up now, and we can have a little chat offline.
Yes.
Is that cool?
Yep.
Do you have? So I think, do you want to say goodbye, or do you have like a cool little haiku? Your quarantine haiku. You're not even quarantined. You keep on working.
I am working mostly from home.
Oh, okay.
I have only had to actually deliver supplies to my workplace for the employees who are working through this. So yeah, they're really busy, and so I've been, they redeploy us as necessary. That's one of the interesting things about working for a company like this is that you do whatever is necessary.
Yeah.
So it's nice though. Then I get the letter that says I can leave the house.
Are you guys being policed wherever you are? Like where you have to show a letter?
No, we're not. But if it gets to that point, I have the letter in my car. So
weird.
That would be a little bit. It's a little bit sinister to think that could happen. But I'm really okay with not going places.
Yeah.
I'm kind of I've prepared for this my whole life.
Okay, so Hannah the lockdown logistics lady.
Yes.
Thanks for your expertise.
I'm not an expert, just disclaimer. These are just my opinions that I've come to over the time in the industry as someone who didn't expect to be in the industry and who doesn't necessarily agree with everything that is done, whether it's by my employer or competitors or anyone else, but just thinking big picture about the world that I want to live in.
Excellent. Congratulations for reaching the end of the podcast. If you enjoyed this product, consider donating to this channel via paypal.me/Benjamin Boyce or joining me on Patreon. Also follow me on Twitter at Benjamin A. Boyce. Have a good night.